Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order. That being the regular council meeting of Warwick Township Council, February 24th, starting time 3:30 as usual, if otherwise noticed to be a different time. Remind council of disclosure of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest. Does anybody have one they wish to declare at this time? Seeing not. I want to welcome everybody who's joining us through our Watford YouTube link. And I'm now going to do the acknowledgement of ancestral lands. We acknowledge that the Township of Warwick is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, as well as the many Indigenous nations in Ontario whose footsteps have marked them for centuries. We also wish to acknowledge that we are situated on Treaty 29 and Treaty 25 territories signed by Chippewa chiefs, and we offer our respect and gratitude for these lands. Number 5 on the agenda, if I could, council, and that's minutes of the previous council meeting, that being the minutes of February 3rd, 2025. Does anybody have any questions or comments on those minutes? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Councillor Manning is moving, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And there was no business arising from those minutes, Madam Clerk? No. Thank you. Council, we could go to 7, scheduled meetings and events, 7A. That's information unless anybody has a question. And then we also have 7B. The same thing goes for that. Any questions or comments on either one of those? Actually, yes. The clerk has proposed a change of time for our March 24th meeting from 3:30 to 3 o'clock, council. How does council wish to deal with the proposed time change? Does that work for everybody? Does that make it tight?
I won't be here anyway.
So I guess it works for Councillor Westgate. One way or the other. Is everybody else okay with that time change? Okay. Sure, we can do that. How about a motion to change our time? That's the deputy mayor, seconded by Councillor Manning. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right. Let's move on to number 8, councillors' commitments and items. Anybody have any new commitments they'd like to add to the list? Seeing none. And as always, if you have something you want to add to it, just see the clerk and she will look after it. Let's go to councillors' items, verbal reports. I'm going to start with Councillor Manning. Do you have anything today, sir?
I have nothing today. Thank you.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor, do you have anything today?
Nothing today. Thank you.
Councillor Westgate?
And I have nothing today.
Okay, I have one thing I want to acknowledge. I want to thank the Watford Optimist Club for putting on another very successful family day. Great crowd as usual. They work very hard to provide an awful lot of extras to the people who live in our community and their families. And again, I just wanted on behalf of council to thank them very much for all they do for the community all year round. But that event is absolutely amazing. So a big thank you to the Watford Optimist Club for what they did on Family Day and what they do for us throughout the year. So thank you very much for that. Okay, let's go to staff items we can. Number 9A. We have an update from Trevor Jarrett, engagement letter from the auditor service plan. Trevor?
Thank you. Very quickly, this is the annual engagement letter. We've migrated from Baker Tilly to MNP. We did it last year, but this is a more formal way to tell us what it's going to include. And before we sign it, I thought we'd bring it here. The audit is also going to be a little bit more thorough and system driven rather than just forensic in nature. So it's going to be analyzing how we do transactions and make sure that's done correctly from A to Z. So just information for council.
Does anybody have any questions on the letter and the correspondence? Seeing none, we have changed companies. Trevor, I believe it's MNP now that we're dealing with. Is this why we have the difference in the changes in the letter?
Yes, it's a lot more thorough. MNP had a more wholesome product than what Baker Tilly did.
Okay, I appreciate that. Can we have a motion to receive and file the written correspondence included in this report, please? Councillor Manning is moving. Councillor Westgate is seconding. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, we're going to have a verbal update from Stephanie Catrice, Economic Development and Communications Officer on the municipal website. Stephanie, if you'd be so kind.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor Case. I just wanted to inform council that our website provider, GHD Digital, has let us know that the back end of their product iCreate is no longer going to be supported, so they're transitioning to a new platform. We're just exploring our options to ensure a smooth transition, and this will be brought forward in the 2026 budget.
So there'll be more information to follow.
Yes, at budget time.
Okay, so budget time, you mean today or?
Sorry,
today is
no,
budget?
2026
Twenty
budget.
twenty, okay,
Yep.
very good. Thank you. Any questions or comments? None? Thank you, Stephanie. All right, we have no delegations today. Let's go to number 11 on the agenda, which is accounts. Any questions on the accounts today, council? Councillor Westgate. That's okay, not a problem.
On the second page, it's Canadian National, the single with gate. Are we paying for part of the single gates?
We pay a fee every year for the signal gates, yes. Trust me, I don't want to.
I just didn't remember paying it before.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to swallow in some ways, meaning that, you know, since they owe us an awful lot of money at the end of the day, which we continue to try to convince them to pay the money that they owe us. Again, they're not recognizing the Drainage Act of Ontario, so we continue to work on that. Okay, very good. Anybody else have any questions on the accounts? I entertain a motion to approve the accounts. Moved by the deputy mayor, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That's carried. The one thing I noticed, we don't have a GL report attached this time around. Is there a reason why?
Right now, we haven't closed year end 2024 and nothing has changed substantially since the last time. So what we submitted last time was complete. I'll roll next council meeting. It'll be the 2025 first edition. And when we get to the final close for 2024, I'll include the final 2024 also. So there's just no traction in it.
Okay, because I know we always have a GL report that accompanies the accounts payable. Very good. Anybody else? Thank you. All in favor? I believe I called that already. Carried. Thank you. Let's go to number 12, the consent agenda. Anybody have anything on the non-action correspondence, or B, the minutes from the Heritage Historical Committee meeting, February 19th? Any questions on either one of those? Councillor Westgate. Very good. Councillor Westgate has moved that. Do we have a seconder for that particular one? Councillor Manning? Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Anybody else have anything on the non-action correspondence? Yes, Councillor Westgate.
On 246, I would like to, when they're covering a whole lot with concrete, I don't think that's right. I would like to say on my part that I don't agree with it. And that should be turned down.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody else? Okay, very good. Thank you. Did anybody have any questions on the minutes of the Heritage Historical Committee of the February 19th? Well, I don't usually do this, but Councillor Manning, you chair that committee. Is there anything you want to highlight?
No, we've got a lot of progress going in there. Got some work getting finished and some stuff like that, but there's nothing we really need to highlight in there, I don't think. Yeah, the committee's doing an excellent job, so I'm really happy with it.
No, I appreciate that, and sorry to put you on the spot, but I think it's important that people do realize that you guys are doing a lot of good work there, and we appreciate that. So thank you very much. So I asked for a motion to receive and file the non-action correspondence and the minutes of the Heritage Committee. Council saw fit. Moved by Councillor Westgate, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, let's go to 13 if we can, Council. 13A is action correspondence. We have 2 of them to deal with today or not deal with, depending on how council feels. I'm gonna, as always, I'll read them out. We have 02-47, and that's Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and they're looking for support for their motion. How does council wish to deal with that one or not wish to deal with that one? Moved by Deputy Mayor. Seconded by Councillor Westgate. Further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And the next one is 02-48. And that's the St. Clair Conservation Authority. And this is basically an FYI to let them know that we'll be hosting the event. And if anybody's interested in coming, to let them know. That's basically all this, Madam Clerk, just an FYI. So again, if you're interested, we are hosting it this year. I guess somewhat hosting it. They're having it here in our hall. So if you're interested in going, let Heather know and we can add you to the list. Okay. Could I have a motion to receive and file the remainder of the correspondence? Thank you, Councillor Manning. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, we have report 13B. It's a fee for service update report. There's a recommendation attached to it. The recommendation is that council approves the inclusion of of a damage deposit fee applicable for all special events and or licensed events within the municipal facilities to the township's fee for service, and that council directs staff to add the damage deposit fee to the current fees for service bylaw. How does council wish to deal with that recommendation? Councillor Manning.
Yeah, I mean, I support this, but I just out of curiosity, Ryan, how much damage have we sustained up there from events like this?
Yes, thank you through the chair. Very minimal. I would think that, or in our past experience has shown that those renting our facilities have been more than gracious to our facilities. No significant issues at all. Just simply, it'd be nice to have this mechanism in place should something arise in the future.
And you see it more as a deterrent as well. That's how I kind of see this as well. I think that'd make a great deterrent for future events just to keep people.
All right, thank you. How does council wish to deal with the recommendation? There's no other questions. Councillor Manning is moving it, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay. There's also a recommendation on C, and that's gravel tender results. And the recommendation is that Warwick Township Council approves the quote as supplied by Mackenzie and Henderson Limited at $18.14 per ton to supply and deliver a minimum of 26,000 tons of maintenance gravel to the Township of Warwick unpaved roads. How does council wish to deal with this particular piece of business? Councillor Westgate.
Question, how does that compare to last year?
The price itself has gone down. It was $18.77 last year. We had 2 bidders come in underneath the lowest bid last year, so we've got a better deal.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve then. Moved by Councillor Westgate, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We have another recommendation on D, and the recommendation is, and that particular recommendation is for Federation Line and Sunset Ave, and that's the tender that was put out. And the recommendation is that Warwick Township Council approves the recommendation of Spreed and Associates to award L82 Construction Limited the contract for the Confederation Line and Sunset Ave reconstruction for $3,399,985.74, excluding HST. How does council wish to deal with this recommendation? And maybe we'll ask Kyle before I ask council that to maybe just let people know how the pricing on that one came in too, Kyle, if you'd be so kind.
Thank you. The pricing for this came in well underneath what Spreed had estimated. Our lowest bids were approximately $1 million underneath the estimated cost. So we had 2 bidders below 3.5 and the remaining ones around 3.5 to 3.7. So it was a pretty competitive bid from 5 different tenders.
All right, thank you, Kyle. How does council wish to deal with the recommendation? Councillor Manning?
Kind of a quick question. I guess this is kind of a general question for all our staff here and for Trevor. Are we starting to see prices come down on a lot of the bids and a lot of the stuff we're dealing with? Because that seems to be kind of the norm today. Am I just being wishful thinking here?
So far this year, we've seen appreciation in terms of pricing. So like it's been good for us so far. I think it's too early to go with that blanket statement, but I'd love for it to continue. I think it's gonna see where we come in for paved roads because I believe Burnham is now out for tender. Oh, pardon me. Yes, Burnham's out for tender right now. I want to see where that comes in. And we also got Kings Court out. And I think those two are more of a litmus test than this, to be honest.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions? Councillor Westgate?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that they had looked at lower, where the culvert goes across on Sunset. We talked about lowering the road there because the road holds the water back from the other side. I just wanted to make sure they had a good look at that. And I was hoping they could bring it down some because it would stop flooding over on John Street.
Kyle?
I will have to get back to you with the specifics of what the change in grade would be. I know they've increased the pipe size significantly. The numbers Spree gave me was 175% increase in water flow underneath the road. So there's a lot more capacity underneath before it gets to that level.
But they were also going to look at the grade change there and if they could lower that road a little bit. And I don't see why they can't for at least a small portion. That would let water go over the road instead of being held back on the other side.
I'll follow up with Spree to find out where they set the grade for Sunset.
Okay, so this price does not include that particular subject that Councillor Westgate is bringing up, just to be clear, this does not include that. So anything that would be done over and above would be more. Am I correct on that, Kyle?
I need to look in to see what was in the tender drawings to get a clear answer for that.
Okay, Councillor Westgate?
It shouldn't cost that much more money if they lower it down. It shouldn't cost any more, but they were going to look at it. I just hope they did. If they haven't, I would like them to.
All right, so you'll investigate that, Kyle? I will say in my experience in dealing with engineers, usually when you make even a small change, no offense to the engineers, perhaps in the room, it usually costs you more money. Let's hope that it doesn't. Okay, council, how does council wish to deal with this particular item? There is a recommendation as I've read out. What's council's wishes? Councillor Westgate? Moved by Councillor Westgate, seconded by Councillor Manning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, let's go to E if we can, 13E. This is the parking bylaw recommendation, and there was correspondence attached to this. So anyways, we do have Kelly here today with us. Thank you, Kelly. Kelly, would you mind coming up to the front? There may be a question and we can set you up in front of the microphone if you don't mind. Sorry, I should have given you a little heads up. We might do that to you. Perfect. So maybe, Kelly, if I could you maybe explain where you are on this particular situation versus people parking, front to front? Maybe you just give us a bit of what your point of view is on this before we ask any other questions.
So, thank you. I did spend 15 years in parking in the city. So I do have a little bit of background here. I guess I've never seen, and we all have pet peeves, I think. And one of them for me is facing the wrong way, because when you pull away from the curb, you are crossing the line of traffic. And really, it doesn't have anything to do with the size of the city. Some of that argument has been made that, Warwick and the hamlet of Watford is, you know, very small. It doesn't matter. It's still crossing the line of traffic, causing a hazard. So most of your parking bylaws are implemented past for safety reasons, and that is a significant one. And there are no other municipalities, save and except for Plimpton, Wyoming has never had it in their parking bylaw. However, we are updating and will be adding it. So I take it that wasn't there because parking really wasn't an issue in Plimpton, Wyoming until the last few years. So it will be added there, which again, there are no other municipalities that I'm aware of that permit that.
And our insurance company is basically backing that up too, I guess, is what I'm told. So Kyle, please.
Yeah, I sent an email out to insurance to get their feedback on it, and they came back with a recommendation to maintain our existing bylaw, and they weren't aware of any municipalities that allowed for parking parking in the direction of oncoming traffic.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else in council have any questions at this time? Councillor Westgate?
I believe we should leave it like it is. It's when you're pulling out and you're sitting on the wrong side of traffic and you're pulling out into traffic and going across to get the other side. I don't agree with it, especially on main streets, maybe on our side streets. It's not a big deal, but we can't have people parking just every which way, I think.
Okay, anybody else have anything on it this time? Well, I'm gonna wade in on this myself, and I mean, I appreciate what you said, Kelly, and you talked about Plimpton, Wyoming is one that doesn't have this. I guess the question I want to ask, if we didn't have this as part of our bylaw, and we just talked about the main roadways in the municipality, what would happen if we just took it out? Because there are residents out there that don't agree with this, and I'm not sitting here trying to argue what the bylaw is, because I know what it is currently. But what would happen is if we took it out and it wasn't in there anymore, would we still be legally able to do that, or would we put ourselves in a bad situation legally? Do you want? Okay.
I just didn't want to try it really, but I believe it's part of the Traffic Act that you can't park the wrong way on the street. It's not just our bylaws, but it's part of the Traffic Act. So I've been told by an ex-enforcer.
So I guess my argument is, I guess just because there are folks out there that have brought this to our attention, and I want to make sure that we bring it full circle for them. So there is a municipality right next door to us that doesn't do it currently. So they're staying and they're complying within their bylaw they have currently. Our bylaw states that this is part of it, but if we took it out, and I don't know if anybody here can answer that question. If we took it out, what would happen, if anything? I guess is my question. Again, there's residents that are concerned with this, and I just want to make sure that their thoughts are brought up and we discuss them. What would happen?
If we take it out of the bylaw, you are then permitting it. If it isn't there, you are permitting it, and it would be municipality wide.
Could the bylaw be specific to major throughways of traffic? And could the others, some of the side streets, be exempt? And again, I'm just asking because this question is being asked of us.
I think that I would prefer to defer that question to maybe Ryan, our legal in the county. I'm not comfortable with it. And again, if the insurance company is not in agreement with it, there's a reason. Again, you're crossing the line of traffic and I mean, could something happen? Obviously, that's why they don't permit it. When I looked at the Highway Traffic Act, it does say that for all highways, King's highways, it's not permitted.
All right, thank you, Kellen. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but I'd like somebody to answer that question if possible, and maybe that's what we need to do. Counselor Manning.
I got two questions. Is there a potential for special applications possibly? Like individuals without laneways there or the position they're in? We have overnight parking, we have permanent parking for that with snow and they have to apply for it. And I'm just curious if that's an open avenue at all or if it's a blanket, thing. And also you mentioned the Highway Traffic Act and so did Councillor Westgate. So even if we were to take this out of our municipal policies, is it in the Highway Traffic Act? And if so, is that our side streets pertain to the Highway Traffic Act? I believe all roadways will. So it really wouldn't matter what difference we make if it is in that Traffic Act.
I don't know if you want to wade in on that one or not, Kelly. I'll let you decide.
I can try. I read it as specific in the Highway Traffic Act to the King's highways, so the 400 series, the 21, the 40. So I can't answer whether or not that covers your side streets. And your first question, exempting them, I would strongly recommend against doing that.
Okay, well, any other questions for Kelly at this time? I would like to get the opinion from our county legal folks on this if it's possible. Again, we also do permit parking for folks who don't have laneways. We've been doing that for a long time here. Works so well. I know we have some folks, I mean, the reason the question's being asked by some is because some folks have some mobility issues and stuff and it works for them. And again, not to try to prolong this, but I would really like us to get a straight answer, yes or no, if some of side streets could be exempt or not. If council was willing to ask for that report back from the county, I would make the motion that we ask for that report back from the county to get clarification on this, just so we know. Because again, Plimpton, Wyoming doesn't have an effect, and I'm not saying take it out, get rid of it. I'm just saying it'd be nice to get clarification. So I'll make that motion to get that information from our county legal people at 5 a seconder. Seconded by the deputy mayor. Any further discussion at all? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. Okay, council, let's move on if we can. And it looks like we are at budget. I need a motion to lift the budget from the table, if I could, please. Who would like to do the honors? Councillor Manning, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, if I could, Mr. Treasurer, could you maybe give us an update on where we are right now as far as where we're sitting as a percentage, and maybe just give us a quick snapshot if you'd be so kind.
Thank you, Mayor. There is a report that's attached that's in green. It's an Excel report. I don't know when they're not getting it up. There it is. When we started the process, we were 286,000 that we're going to have to borrow from reserves, and I recommended a 5% tax increase. Since that time, we added 40,000 for gravel. It only came in that we needed 28,300 to cover that due to the price dropping from 1877 to 1841. There's a revenue adjustment coming based on some negotiations with WM, which will be announced later. That's going to add back 29,625. Insurance also came in 10%, pardon me, at 9%. We had budgeted for 10, which is 4,000. When all the changes are in place, your $280,675 you're borrowing from reserves at 5%. Essentially, you save $6,000. $6,000 at 30%, you're dropping it by 0.2. So if 5% is my recommendation, I'd go down to 4.8 to that point in time to cover the changes that we've done. So that's where we sit.
Okay, any questions on that piece? I guess maybe the next question, and I did have a chance to talk to the treasurer, and I'd like to have a one pager on what we've done and what we've already committed to and where we are as far as reserves and stuff go. I don't know if you have that particular piece of information, Mr. Treasurer. Again, I can appreciate that, and we have already committed to a new emergency vehicle for the fire department. We've also committed to a new backhoe for Public Works, a new tandem truck for Public Works, and a wood chipper for Public Works as far as capital items go. Am I missing anything, Mr. Treasurer?
The other things that are in there that we've committed to was Sunset Erie work on that, which was $500,000. It's come in under the budget that we need by $1 million. However, 2/3 of that is tied into potentially getting back a grant. And until I go through to find out what qualifies for the grant, and we will need Spreet's help to do that as the engineers, I would strongly recommend keeping that in there for, I hate saying it, perhaps emergent issues throughout the year if those funds come through. Regardless, we will be carrying the cash flow costs of that project until the end of the project when we get back the grants from the federal and the province. Other than that, everything else is as it sits. We have 235,000 for the bar screen, and we have 50,000 for the lagoon sludge removal engineering that are sitting there that are coming straight from, those will be funded straight from the sewage lagoon if approved. So I can't really offer too much more. It's just a question of whether or not we want any more gives and takes in there. I do believe we have an update on the pricing from Spreet on the proposed work on Brickyard. Thank you, Kyle. We missed the mark tremendously, and I'll let Kyle go forward with that.
Kyle, please.
Yes, sorry, unfortunately, we missed it. The original 400,000 would be for just 2 blocks. The 4-block estimate provided by Spreet is 900,000. That is what he recommended I bring forth to council to get your input on. So it's a substantial increase. It was a miss by a lot.
But that would finish it. That would finish that side of Brickyard, the $900,000. I thought I read a figure back a while ago. It was like $750,000. Did I dream that up, or was that a figure that was offered up?
That was originally offered up, and then I asked Chris to go back and firm up his estimate, and he came back at 900.
Okay, let's hope he's wrong. That's a big difference. We're talking some high percentage. So council, I guess the question right to everybody today right now would be, are we still looking to finish that whole section of Brickyard off? We do have $1 million potential savings on the Sunset project. Confed is the mindset to still finish that section this year. I'll put it out there if anybody wants to offer their opinion on that. Councillor Manning?
Yeah, I would like to see it finished. I think some of these roads are kind of hanging over our heads and too long. And honestly, I think that's one of the areas we really need to concentrate on. So I'd like to see that.
You? Councillor Westgate?
I'd like to see it finished too. Roads aren't getting any better. It's gonna cost us more another time. And we have this $1 million that we can probably use, or part of it anyway, to shore that up.
Deputy Mayor?
I agree with everybody else.
Okay. I share the same opinion everybody else does. So I guess what we'll have to do is make an adjustment So that adjustment, does that still keep us within the 4.8%, Mr. Treasurer?
Yes, that'll keep you in the 4.8. These would be coming from the dollars that we get from the host agreement that funnel straight into capital rather than go through the O&M component.
Okay. I think we should probably, because of the mix-up, we should have a motion on the books that states that we're going to finish that part of Brickyard, complete it at the $900,000, just to keep everything accurate. Who would like to make the motion? Councillor Manning's doing that. Thank you, Councillor. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. So by doing that, doing the rough math, the million that we thought maybe perhaps we were going to save, we've now eaten up almost half of it.
Yes, basically what there is we have sunset in here for $500,000. The top line, if we go up to in green, that'll just be repurposed. We'll just move that down to the 900,000. So now it's $500,000 that we have in reserves from last year that if they don't use, will go back into general reserves or be available for emergent projects throughout the year.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? I guess the only question I have on that is, I know that we need to have healthy reserves. We also have things like public works, recreation, and especially even fire that we need to buy more equipment. We're buying one emergency vehicle this year. We need to buy another one. There's only 2 years difference between the two, or 1 year difference between the two. Plus there's other vehicles that we're going to be mandated to replace as well. So I guess I'll say on the record, I'm okay with keeping that $500,000 sitting there with the understanding that whatever's left of that $500,000, hopefully it's most of it, will go to our reserve fund to help in one of those departments or in all those departments in the future, because I'd like to see us have more reserve dollars going into our budget system. But I guess that $500,000 could work and do the job, or whatever's left of it. Anybody else want in on this? No? We agree? Okay, very good. Did I call the question on the motion, Madam Clerk? Yes. Did I call the vote? I did. Very good. Thank you. Okay, the budget is still open. Does anybody, I know this is meeting, if you count the introduction, meeting number 4, but does anybody else have any questions on the budget for 2025? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the budget at 4.8% as presented. If somebody would like to make that motion. Deputy Mayor Kallenberg is moving it, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So that's a 4.8% increase. All right. Thank you very much. Do we have any other new business for today? I have one piece, if nobody else does. We talked about forming a committee to work with our fire personnel, a fire committee, to help with changes and so on that we're making as we go along through the fire service. And we talked about forming that committee, and I would make a motion that we form the fire committee, and that Councillor John, or Deputy Mayor John Kallenberg, and Councillor Jerry Westgate will sit on that committee as township representatives, along with Brad Goodhill from Warwick Fire and administrative staff, and that there will be other representation appointed from both fire stations in the near future to sit on that committee as well. So that would be the motion that I will make today. Does that work for you, Chief? Very good. How does council wish to deal with that motion? Seconded by Councillor Manning. I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, that ends the public portion of our meeting today. I'm going to ask for a motion to move into an in-camera meeting of council pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act, and it's to deal with number 2 of the Act, a matter regarding personnel matters about identifiable individual, including municipal or local board or employees. Who would like to do the honors? Deputy Mayor Kallenberg and Councillor Manning, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you, chief.